But guys, we are here at booth 4746 for PRI 2023. That's right. Mr. Rich Guido is here. He's standing right outside the camera. Get in here, sir. Hey, listen, I'm so excited to have you here. We're going to share this mic, so we're going to be close.
All right.
But listen, me and you are good buddies, anyways.
Yes.
So
yeah.
he's one of my
We'll
favorite
just talk
people.
one at a time, and yeah.
That's right. He's one of my favorite people in Drag and Drive. One of the coolest cars that's out there. Dude, you're back here. This is you've been to PRI several times.
Yeah, I think
You're
it's my fourth. Yeah.
yeah, you're here with your buddy Bill Armstrong. Like,
Yeah. I haven't seen him yet, but I'll probably go hang out with him a bit.
right. Well, it's hard, dude. You're famous. I
Well,
was watching people walk by and they started recognizing you. Like you could see their face, like, that's Rich Guido.
yeah. Yeah, which is really weird because
Yeah.
I'm just guy doing what I love to do. It is cool where this hobby has brought me. Even some of the famous YouTube guys, Billy the Kid, those guys. When you go over and talk to them and they recognize you too, it's like
Wow.
that's what Drag and Drive has done for me.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
you
Well,
know,
well, before this, you're telling even Mike Finnegan that you met him in 2013. So you've been doing this 11 years.
yep. Is it 11?
Yeah.
Geez, yes, 11 years. Yeah. And I was telling the story about the first event was probably the craziest. Like we changed the camshaft before we got out of Canada. Brother hit both walls, met Bill Armstrong, changed his clutch in a car wash. Like it was Hot Rod Magazine did an article on me while I was in the tech line. And that's what I bugged my brother about. It's like, oh, I was getting all the attention, and you solved that problem. You just run into both walls.
That's right.
No
That's
problem.
right.
They don't want to talk to me no more.
That's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he certainly did. And then you guys drove it, you fixed it and drove that car home.
Yeah, he made it like 60 kilometers away from his house, and one of the front wheels fell off. And then finally, he towed it the rest of the way.
Nice.
Going to the border was pretty funny because the guy's like, "Have you made any changes to your car?" And I'm like, "I didn't." I said, "But he sure did." He's literally like drives up, goes across the border, and the one side of the car is like beat up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
so they can search Bob Guido
yeah.
2013 Drag Week and find that video. You were showing it to me, just say like you pulled it up right out of the
Yeah,
out of the tape.
just search Mustang hits both walls drag week. You'll get it right
You
away.
got it right there.
Yeah.
Well, since 2013, you've done at least 18 events that I can think of just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And so in that time, what have you seen like as far as not just stick shift racing, because we're going to talk about that, but what have you seen as far as like the whole community change? What's been the changes?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big change is the amount of events. And so drag week was like hard to get into. I mean, it wasn't that bad 2013, but very quickly it escalated to the point where if you're not as good at trying to register as you are at racing cars, you ain't getting in.
You need to cut a light.
You better call some friends. You better figure that out. You better get autofill sorted out.
Yeah.
And then share the vast events, but also now the different interpretation of the events.
Yeah.
I think you and I both know that Rocky Mountain Race Week, is really family oriented. You had some extra time in there where you could socialize. And so he's built this family doing it that way. And then we go all the way to the other. Devin is now doing the same thing. He's got ice cream and hot dogs, and that's what I love is everyone's got their own interpretation of what an event should be like. And Bailey did that with Sick Week, where it was like we're gonna have shorter drives and we're gonna spend more time socializing.
Yeah.
And then all of us wingnuts that are race car guys are like, oh, I can spend more time racing at the track because the drive is shorter.
Yeah, it's not like
so that really didn't work.
Yeah, we're not spending more time in the parking lot. We're spending more time on the track.
Yeah, and but I mean the notoriety and the recognition that we're getting now. I mean, I've been in places like Tennessee after Sick Week, stop at a gas station and have 3 people go, I was just watching you online.
Yes.
I was like, come on, we're in Tennessee. Like how, but so many people follow. So many street outlaws actually is really weird. Like the first time I met Big Chief, I'm chatting with him and I wanted to ask him some questions about his car and I watch his stuff. So I'm like, I don't want to shake your hand. I know you're a bit of a germaphobe. I'm like, I just want to talk to you about your car. And he's like, you from Canada? And I'm like, yeah. It's like, drive a 65 GTO all over the country. I said, yeah. And he's like, oh, I know who you are. And I'm like, that just didn't freak me out. But I'm like, that's pretty humbling right off the bat.
That's pretty cool.
And people
and
like
you've
that.
earned that. Like that's what people have to understand. Like this isn't something that like everybody just decided you were cool. Like you came into this being cool and everybody realized it because you've driven that car. You drove that car 15, 18,000 miles this year.
25,000 miles this year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
wow.
yeah, made it home every time. And I mean, it was always just my gig. And I never wanted a race car.
Yep.
You know, summers are short in Canada. And if you want to enjoy your car, in my opinion, you got to have a street strip car. So you can drive it. I drive it to work. I drive it everywhere. And it just allows you to enjoy it, work out kinks, and really get it more and more streetable as it goes.
Yeah.
And obviously faster and faster as it goes.
Right.
But
well, I was talking to Ed Hohenberg earlier, and he was saying that he's taking a different car each time he's done a drag week, and I'm like, in my back of my mind, I'm like, that's not how you sort stuff out.
No.
Like you sort stuff out by going to the first one, then realizing what you need to change to go to the second one and the third one. And so with 18 events or more for you, you know, what is stuff like? Well, you're making a big change to the car now. We won't talk about that, but there's big changes coming for his car. But how do you go into like your off season anymore? Because you know what are you looking at? What's your maintenance kind of deal?
Bailey screwed that shit all up off season.
Yeah,
when you have sick week in February and then you know the events start right away again. So you know people ask me that all the time. You know what's your freshen up schedule? And it's like, hey, ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, So I haven't. You know, it's apart right now, doing some work to it, but yeah, my off season's screwed up now.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of
Yeah.
it. You know, I used to have like 4 or 5 months of downtime, but Bailey screwed that stuff right up.
Yeah.
I mean, this might be the last year I do sick week. I mean, it's expensive.
Well, what's the mileage? Because when like people say drag and drive is expensive all the time, but how many miles is it from your house to like Orlando?
Yeah, so it's 3,000 miles to get to the start of the event.
Yeah. And so even with a 6-speed, because we're going to talk about the setup in the car, but 6-speed, 1800 RPMs at 85 miles an hour, that car still isn't going to get great mileage. But even if it got 20, you're going to burn 150 gallons of fuel getting down there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so fuel economy wise, doing 80 miles an hour, pulling the trailer, it'll get 16 US miles to the gallon,
wow.
which is actually really good doing that kind of RPM.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's still not cheap. Like,
right.
It's still a lot of fuel that you burn. Yeah.
And you've proven yourself. You're 2-time back-to-back stick shift champion at Sick Week. I mean, like, I'll say it. 2023, you shouldn't have been. There were cars miles ahead of where you were then.
Jeremy Howell that we were just talking to.
Here.
I'm like, that guy's gonna kick my ass. Chad Fegley's gonna kick my ass, and Taylor Hedrick's gonna kick my ass. And one of them three is gonna survive the event.
Yeah.
And then Jeremy broke on the dyno the day before.
Yep.
Taylor had water the tech day, and then Chad blew a big hole in the side of his transmission on day 3, and all of a sudden I'm the lead by half a second. I'm like, this shouldn't be happening, but now I better not break.
That's right. And so when you start looking at that stuff, you've won Rocky Mountain Race Week stick shift class. You've won.
I have not. I've only ever got second in that one.
Yep.
But I have been ahead of Bill quite a few times in that one. I just never got first yet.
That's right. Well, and that's the other thing we were going to talk about too. So we'll bring that up now. You and Bill, longtime friends. Obviously, you talked about him a minute ago. Meeting 2013 Drag Week. What? I know if you make upgrades, he's going to make upgrades. But with all of his bank shift Billy and the bank shift button that he's doing now and all that kind of stuff, like, are you gonna like this new upgrade? He said he's scared a little bit.
Good. I like that. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, every once in a while I send him stuff that I'm not even going to do.
Nice.
Just to screw with him.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm sure he will too. Like, I mean, he cracked his block, so he's doing some upgrades too. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, both of us have 850 cages. Both of us drive so much that I just can't see putting anything more aggressive in the car. So if I could run consistent 850s, that'll make me pretty happy, because I got a long ways to go on the 8th mile journey to 535s or
what your limit would be there.
Yeah.
Yep. So 850 stuff, but right now you're at mid 870s, 875, I think, on Sick Week, right?
Yep. That's so far.
You start thinking like 2.5 tenths doesn't sound like much to folks that aren't really in this, but that's a lot, especially like in a stick shift car and at the weight you're at.
Yeah.
You know, so
4,100 pounds and and being a stick, everything's got to be right. And I mean, to get the perfect run to run an 875, Sick Week is the place to do it.
Yeah.
That track prep there, I mean, it can make a bad chassis guy look good. Me. And in fact, it'll fool you to think that you can run that kind of time anywhere, but Sick Week and the prep there really makes you look good. But for me, I'm going to knock a little bit of weight out of the car and then dry deck and do a whole bunch of shit and probably screw the car up before a Sick Week.
Yeah.
What could happen?
Well, I mean, what could happen?
What could happen? It's only 3,000 miles with my 81-year-old dad in the passenger seat.
Right. And so last year you guys chased the storm, or storm chased you on the way down. You make the week, and then the same thing on the way back. You have one of the most iconic shots that you've taken. I think it almost went viral, I would say, is you at the gas station and all of the snow coming off the tire.
Oh, yeah.
Well.
I kid you not. I bet you there was 400 pounds of ice and snow on that thing. I laid on my back in the water, spraying the bottom of the car and trying to get all of the salt and ice and shit off that car. But, what did they do in 1965? Now, they might not have had 1,500 horsepower, but honestly, the car is super comfortable to ride in. I mean, my dad, he can sleep in it.
Just cruising.
Yeah,
and you're still bench seat in the front, right?
No, it's got buckets.
Buckets.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you still have the back seat. That's why I was thinking, because
Yeah.
Blaine rode with you. So who are some of the other co-pilots you've had? You've had your dad rides with you most, but you've had some third passengers too, like Blaine Stark.
Yeah.
You had Kyle Williams.
Yeah. The very first year I had my engine builder, Todd from Muscle Motors up in Strathmore. He rode in the passenger seat. And then Dan Nissen rode with me a couple of times. And then, Kyle in the back seat and Blaine in the back seat. And then, did my brother ever ride with me? We've done a few together, but I don't think he's ever been in the passenger seat. We might not get along, but
long. Y'all been around each other for a long time.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
time for you to bicker.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That's funny. Well, I'm excited to see the changes. I'm excited to see you hunting for that 850 number. That's my jam. I love the 850 class. I always tell you all the time that I'm always up recording the stick shift class because you guys, the violence that happens up there is amazing.
Yeah, we like to create excitement, and it's just getting, the amount of backfiring and shit going on at the line. I remember when it used to be, who's the guy who's won 5 in a row? Stick car.
No,
come on,
dude. Are you kidding me? My brain is so fried right now.
But every time he would get up on that line, he'd be backfiring everyone. I'm thinking, what is wrong with that thing? Now there's a whole bunch of us doing it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. There's nothing better than when you guys are filming and all of a sudden people are hitting the ground. It's like, what the hell's going on up there? Oh, it's just a couple of stick cars making. And Chris Hines the same, where that thing is rowdy on the two-step.
Yes. So let's tell that story for a minute. So Bill Armstrong surprises you, comes up out of nowhere, shows up Miles of Mayhem, wins the stick shift class there. You bring the entire Canadian Army down to
that's what you get, man.
Stick shift Army to throttle him.
Yeah.
And you guys take 1, 2, 3. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, when Bill showed up that day, it was funny. There was like multiple signs that he was coming. I missed them all. Yeah.
And you're saying your wife had put extra beer in the fridge.
Yeah, she bought beer, and I'm like, why did she buy beer? That's weird. And I'm like, Dan Nissen might stop by. Do we have enough food? And she's like, oh yeah. And I look, and it's like, how much you think he eats? Like, and then when they parked a long ways away and showed up at the door, you could see it online. I looked at him and I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? And
right.
It was awesome. It was, both Sick Week years. I mean, I was far enough ahead that I really didn't have to push the car any harder. And as much as I, enjoyed getting 2 helmets, sure, a lot more fun when you're neck and neck with your buddy and you got to work for it. And Bill made me work for it. Like, I made more passes at Miles of Mayhem because Bill was there kicking my ass. So,
well, and from what I understand, you had a little bit of a lead going into day, like after day 4, going into day 5 to finish the week, and you're like doing a rain dance. You're like, sprinkle.
No, it was the other way. Actually, I was leading day 1. Day 2, he passed me. The day 3, he was still in the lead, and the only way that I was going to win is if because he stripped the distributor gear. And the car shut off, so he had to change the distributor gear, and then the clouds are rolling in. And I'm like, if he has to turn in that last time, I'm in the lead. So I was over there doing a rain dance by his car. It didn't rain.
Dang it. Well, hey, so you had to earn it. That lit a fire, and then you guys come down and just
beat
on stuff. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, to see him drive all the way up there. I mean, I've driven quite a few times down to see him, so it was good to see him and experience the full drive, doing an event, knowing you're that far from home, and the only way home is what you're driving.
Yeah,
it plays with your mind a bit.
Well, so let's talk about the driving home. I mean, dude, you have so many stories. So this is fun. I go to King of the Open Road. You're there with Trevor, who's out here somewhere with GTR.
Yep.
You you didn't destroy. You hurt the transmission. You hurt the rear diff. You literally pull in the pits. His car is going back to the shop that it was worked on. He has an empty trailer, and you're like, nope, I'm going to change the trans and the rear diff in the pits to drive this thing home.
Yeah, I don't like, my car doesn't like being on a trailer.
Yeah.
And I don't like it being on a trailer. I would much rather drive that car. So I had everything to fix it. And even flying down here, I'm like, man, I think I'd rather drive down here. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to come for a ride at some point. The car is super comfortable, and it's not loud inside.
Yep.
And I don't know why you would put it on a trailer. I guarantee you, if I bought a truck, and I wouldn't get 16 miles per gallon towing that thing.
No way. And you get to work out some bugs if you ever had any, like the time when you had a upper control arm malfunction on you, and you had to fix it on the side of the middle of nowhere gas station.
Couple of times. Yeah, honestly, that for me is what makes this community so special. Is we have to fix shit. Like on the last plane that arrived to Indy, it's full of people coming to PRI.
That's
I thought if something goes wrong with this plane, somebody on this plane can fix this shit, because that's what we do.
Right? You guys heard of duct tape, baling wire? We can get this thing fixed.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the community so special, is because our heads are, we don't give up.
Right.
It's like, oh, the car broke, I'm done. It's like, no, we got to fix this. And so that's what I like about driving everywhere, is it don't matter what happens, you got to fix it.
Yeah.
Now, will there be a time where I can't fix it? Probably, but and I might just leave it there and get some parts and fly back down later and fix it. Well, my brother was just telling the story that he at the end of the one drag week, he took the rods out of his motor, and he had driven it there, and ended up buying a truck for $1,000 off another drag weeker and loaded it up and hauled ass all the way back to Montana, left the truck there. My dad came down, picked the car up, and it's like, that's part of the story. Awesome. That's part of the adventure.
Well, and I think, like, there's certain people in the world that were part of like some nomadic tribe. I'm telling you, that's what it was. Some people were like, they stayed in one spot. A lot of the Drag and Drive team family, I think we live for that. We live for being out, like traveling as much as I did this year. I looked forward to going back out and getting back on the road and doing some camping, being outside, all that kind of stuff. So that's one of the biggest, I think, helpful things for people, is it allows you to build that other community you're looking for,
Yeah, like with Bill had problems with his motor this year. Like, I had a tarp in my car and we pulled it out, and so we got this tent over top of his car. We got Tony and Tess under the hood with us too, and we're looking at Bill's engine, and I'm looking around and thinking, and it is a massive storm coming, and we're laughing and having a good time. And even though Bill's motor's shot and he didn't finish, I mean, the rest of us, we still had a good time.
Yeah. But, and it's a story you can tell that will be told forever. I mean, like, that's, I think, seeing all the media companies come into this. I mean, heck, we built this all is built on Drag and Drive.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, the more stories that we can tell, those pictures that come out from that, that's stuff that's going to live on forever.
Yeah. When Bill broke, it was right beside what I thought was a farmyard. And I'm like, Bill, you got to go in there and talk to that guy and see if you can put your car in there. And Bill goes in there. He comes back and he's like white as a ghost. I'm like, what's going on, man? And he's like, well, guy's drunk. He ain't got no shirt on, and his yard's got tools and shit in the mud all over the place. I am not leaving my car here. It's like, okay, all right, we don't have to leave your car here. We'll just stay with you, and we'll get your car moved out of here. But
that's awesome.
You just so many stories, right? And when you go to the grave and I think it was Tom's article in the last magazine that talked about today's the
Sunday.
Day. Yeah, someday is
make
today.
Today your someday.
You don't know. You don't know if you're going to leave here and the plane's going to crash or the car's going to hit you.
Yep. Well, and a lot of stuff we talk about all the time is like, there's people that say, I will oh man, I'll do a drag and drive eventually. Oh, I want this car done, blah, blah, blah. Well, what ends up happening is they never do that because they're never fast enough for what they want to run. They're never, so they end up passing it on. But once those people do that, it's over.
Oh yeah.
Like we were talking
I think it's that word right there.
Addiction. Yeah,
addiction.
That's right.
Yeah.
We were talking to somebody earlier and they had done, it was Ralph and Kathy Rugg who they did Midwest Drags, then they did Drag Week, and now they're campaigning 3 cars next year at least 2 or 3 events. That's what happens, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a great community to be part of too. It's one, unless you've experienced it, you just don't understand it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. I think we were chatting about, somebody says, did Clark ever give you those 1350 U joints back? And I'm like, no, they're only 1350 U joints. He needed them and I had them.
Yep.
So he's got them. Like,
yep. So hey, that is one good point. If you have tools or parts that belong to somebody else, send them a message and say thank you. Don't send them back. Just send them a message and say thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so what's the plan? Like, you're here all weekend. Where can people see you? You're gonna be walking around.
I'm just walking around. Yep. I've got a few things on my list. I got some trying to think about the upgrades that I want to do, and talk to some fuel injector and fuel pump and head gasket. And so I'll just be wandering around. Definitely stop me and say hi if you
please. And selfies. Listen, I'll take 300 selfies while we're here this weekend, but you definitely have to do that while you're there. While you're out and about, please come by booth 4746. Take a picture in front of this. We're going to have some fun. I hope you make it back by this weekend too. I hope you hang out here for a few minutes. That way, if folks are watching this, they can come over and see you and meet you. And there's a lot of times where people at your level of fame, people are almost nervous to talk to you. But I'll tell you, Rich is one of the coolest dudes you'll ever meet, and wants to talk about your car and his car and events all the time.
Yeah, and while you stop by the booth, what you have to do for sure is thank this guy for all the attention he's got us. I mean, I understand I probably don't understand, but I can comprehend somewhat the amount of stress to create an award system like this, and the amount of stress. So I really appreciate everything that you've done this year.
Thank you for saying that.
That was super cool up in the room, recognizing some people like Bryant, like he deserved that, right? I mean, he busted his butt.
Yeah.
And people who think it wasn't easy have no idea of what he went through to win that, right?
Listen, his last pass at day 1 is he breaks the wheelie bar, he breaks the fuel cell. They have to fix all that in the dark. That place is darker than you've ever seen.
The lights go out, and
there's no lights in the pit, so it's black. And then they leave and get a flat tire in 10 miles. Day 1, that close to the trailer, they stop to put fuel in. Still day 1, they stop to put fuel in. Car won't start. They sleep in the car for like an hour and a half that night till they get it fixed. Just crazy. I mean, and that's normal drag and drive. What's funny is we laugh, but that really is what we almost look for anymore. We're looking for that fun, that extra. The guys that drive a late model car and it doesn't break or doesn't even hiccup, do they have as much fun? Probably not.
Yeah. No, I mean, I could tell you so many stories. Like Derek over here, there was about 5 of us traveling together, and I can't remember who it was, but there's 3 cars on the side of the road, and you know the rule, right? Somebody out there, thumbs up. There was nobody anywhere near any of the cars, so we whipped in there, and we're like, where the heck are these guys? And then we see this trough going down into the bushes, and it's like, uh-oh. So we go down there, and sure enough, the trailer from the one car is down in the bushes.
Oh man.
So we formed this human chain, moved all the parts back up, and of course the hitch had broken off. So I took he had a spare hitch, and we put it on my car. We took the rack that was on the back of mine, put it on top of his Land Cruiser, and then we hauled it to the next checkpoint for those guys.
Nice.
We didn't know who they were or anything. And but yeah, there's just so many stories like that where I could go on for days telling the stories.
Well,
that's what's great about it.
We've been hard at it for 30 minutes. I know you're a busy guy and you got stuff to do. So we're going to end the live feed, but you will be here for a few minutes. I hope hanging out and talking to folks that come by and just helping spread the word of drag and drive and the addiction it causes.
Well, thank you too.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, guys, we'll see you soon. Cool, man. Thank you. 30 minutes.